Hello everybody, Justin from Playing Board Games here, and I am here to share with you some news that came from FantasyFlightGames regarding all of their living card games. While Lord of the Rings is pictured here, I don't think it's on the same level as Arkham and Marvel, but I'm glad it's been included, at least in this photo. But this was a thing that was announced a few days ago, at the time of the video was uploaded yesterday, at the time of recording this video right now, that there are changes coming to the format of their LCG. And I am here to, one, read through this article to give you context information on these changes. Two, to provide a bit of levity and perspective to, while not downsize the potential doomsaying that can come from this, but also to sympathize with that, but then also explain that, like, give some context and further context of why I believe that this is a necessary step for this game to make. If you don't know what a living card game is, it's something that Arkham is. It's not like a trading card game where they come in randomized packs. They come in expansion packs that you can buy and then use to enhance your collection. That concept of this is not changing, so I know there were some people who were worried about this becoming like a trading card game like a Star Wars Unlimited or Magic the Gathering. That ain't happening. But why don't we read through this, and you can also have a link to this article. You can check it out as well. But I don't want to dive in and check this all out. So, in the recent Living Card Game Fireside Chat, FFG Studio, Jim Cartwright introduced product retirement and the idea of distinguishing between a current environment and a legacy environment in our cooperative LCGs. This article takes a closer look at those concepts, particularly through the lens of asking how their introduction might impact or influence our design philosophy moving forward. Wait, what are we talking about? If you missed the Fireside Chat, it's probably worth reviewing what these concepts are. Essentially, starting later this year, older expansion products of our LCG lines will begin to be retired, which means that we will no longer be reprinting those products, and they are no longer considered to be part of the current environment. This practice allows us to define a more accessible current environment, which consists of the core set, any other evergreen or perpetually in print expansions, as well as the newer expansions that have not yet been retired. In practice, this will be approximately 2 to 3 years worth of active expansions. Precise lists of what is considered current environment will be maintained and updated by each product line as new products are released or as older products are retired. The definition of the legacy environment is pretty straightforward. Any product that has ever been printed for the game is part of this environment. All products within each game line will always be compatible with all the other products from that line, which means if you have a card, you can play it in Legacy. For those who have been playing one of the games for a while, nothing about the Legacy environment is technically new except for the name. Up until now, each game's only environment has been, if you have a card, it's part of the environment. With this change, long-term players can now choose between playing with all of their cards by playing Legacy, or playing with just the new cards in Current, or bouncing back and forth between the formats as they see fit. So all this talk, I'm going to strip it down for you. My perspective on this announcement is the only thing that I think is actually relevant to us as consumers currently is that products are going to start being retired. This means that, yes, things are going to start going out of print. Realistically, this, I think, is a very important decision and a very tough decision that Fantasy Flight had to make that is mainly just due to financial reasons, right? There's going to be a lot of talk about the design process and how this assists in the design, but I do believe most things in this world, if not all of them, revolve around money. So it's just not feasible to have as many products as they do and constantly keep those products in stock, especially considering that as people get into the game, there's going to be less people needing to buy old expansions, right? New players might not buy everything, and they won't care about things being retired. And in franchise players who are currently in are probably already have everything, so they don't need to care about being retired. But players who are joining now that want everything obviously feel a fire under their ass to buy everything. There's no, they didn't actually give an exact date for when things for Arkham would start being out of print, but an example, in Marvel Champions, some hero packs are already out of print. We've seen this already in Arkham in the form of the Return Tos, but what's happening is now this is coming into all campaign formats as well. I think another important thing that was not said, or I missed it in the announcement video when they did their stream, was that what's going to stay in print is their core set and any other evergreen expansions. So we don't know for the Arkham team what the evergreen expansions are. But obviously, with this statement, there are some things that are going to stay in print perpetually and some things that are going to be taken out. This also means that these evergreen sets might one day not be evergreen, or a different set is going to become evergreen. I don't know, I'm not guaranteeing anything. This is just like my own context of reading this article and watching the announcement. Nothing I'm saying is actually super set in stone, so just keep that in mind. However, a big thing here for me when I read this article, this was a huge, huge thing where I was like, I'm very curious about what these evergreen things are. So it's going to be precise lists of what is considered the current environment will be maintained and updated by each line as new products are released or as older products are retired. I think it's incredibly important that FFG stays on top of this. There needs to be constant communication whenever this is updated. And the LCG is a model that they said in their video, in the stream, that was very important to Fantasy Flight Games. And I honestly do believe them. And I think that this is just the next step for what a living card game needs to be financially viable. And we're going to get to that as well later on in this article. As for the formats, honestly, I don't know what personally to think about these myself yet. I have to do some reflection on how we're going to handle how we're going to handle this when it starts on the channel, because part of me loves the legacy environment and part of me is going to love the current environment. I don't know if I like the names, but that's what the names are. But I think that this is going to be an interesting thing for content going forward, at least for our channel, and we're going to have to like dub our videos current legacy, kind of like discussing with them. And it's going to be very interesting as well when we talk about like card evaluation. I haven't talked to Travis or Bryn about this yet. Eric won't care. Eric's chill. But I do think that this is ultimately not really a big part of it for me, because what matters for me is that it's a game that I play and have fun playing, and how things happen and are released aren't going to really change that. But let's keep going. But we like the games the way they were. Why change? When my headphones go to sleep, they say power off, and the woman's voice in my head literally just scared the ever-loving shit out of me. That was fucking terrifying. Anyway, while these changes will impact design, it is important to remember that the impetus behind this change was not primarily for the sake of that impact. More than anything else, these changes are being introduced to make the LCGs more accessible, and by virtue of that increased accessibility, more sustainable long-term. So, when I read this, what I kind of mean is it's more accessible because a new player will go to a game shop and one, will see things stocked because that's the hope that the game will be stocked, right? And two, will have less choices that they need to make. So an example of this, let's just say, for example, we only have 4 campaign cycles in play. Investigator cards, Investigator cards, campaign cards, right? For our videos, when a new player asks, what should I get? Instead of saying, well, you should maybe start with like Dunwich Legacy and then like go to Carcosa or like do it in order, the conversation then changes to just grab one of the boxes, right? And I don't think that this is going to impact the complexity of the packs. I feel like there's going to be a balance, as there always is. There's going to be some cards that are more complicated, some cards that are like easier to understand. But I think what it does on that for like a new player is it becomes easier to target the idea of, hey, just buy what you see. But I think, again, the bigger thing is that they don't need to stock 20 SKUs. Because if you think about it, right, like Dunwich, Carcosa, Forgotten Age, Circle Undone, Dream Eaters, Innsmouth, Edge of the Earth, Scarlet Keys, Hemlock Vale, Drowned City. That's 20 products that if they're trying to constantly keep in stock is a lot of money. And if they aren't selling, like that's like, if they're not selling to the point where like keeping them in stock is worth it, it's going to kill the game faster than what they're doing now is, right? So like the finances of it just make sense. So that's why when I first saw this, my thought process was not, this is bad news, this is good news, this is just news. This is just like business doing business. And they have like, there's a lot of like reason behind it for like the design. And while I believe all of this is true, I do think that like the biggest thing is just the financial side of it. By establishing and emphasizing the current environment, an LCG is more appealing and manageable for a retailer to keep in stock, and newer players are not intimidated, confused, and are turned away by a never-ending wall of product. Such barriers have caused former LCGs to collapse under their own weight, and the primary goal of introducing this change is to avoid these obstacles and continue to publish new content for each line for years to come. So, again, exactly kind of what I was just saying, right? Like, I think a lot of LCGs failed because they did not do this. And I think that even though this is not news that people enjoy hearing, it's good news for the long-term longevity of Marvel Champions, Arkham Horror, and apparently Lord of the Rings, because it was included in the header banner as well. These are co-op games, so why does environment matter? The idea of set rotation and what cards rotate out of a standard environment after a couple of years of ability is not new to anyone who's played a competitive trading card game. When I was watching the video, I was like, this is rotation. Which actually also I've said would be very helpful for Arkham in the past, so I'm feeling a little bit vindicated. The benefits noted in the previous section, retailers don't have to stock older sets after they have rotated, and new players don't have to feel the way they feel they need the older cards to get into the game, are part of the reasoning for the rotation. But the idea of competitive balance is tied into the reasoning as well, which leads to the question, why define current and legacy environments at all for a cooperative game? Why not just retire products and let the resulting environment be whatever it becomes from a group to group? To explore the answer to these questions, let's start with a simple example. Imagine a neutral Arkham Horror, the card game event, the card that costs 1 resource, and an action that deals 3 damage to a ghoul enemy at your location. Is this a good card? The answer to that question depends entirely on the environment. What are other 1-cost events that are available? Are they more efficient, non-event means of dealing damage? How likely we encounter a ghoul when we play? How much damage does it usually take to defeat a ghoul? Are there any incentives or disadvantages for playing neutral cards? Notice how none of these questions are about the example card itself, but all of them refer to the rest of the environment. I think this is actually a very apt way of showing how a meta can exist. And just how one card, without even like talking about the card, can really impact it. We see this in a ways that like when Travis says, like, I have to play practice makes perfect, right? Because if we're playing in a format with everything, he sees practice makes perfect and he says, damn, I gotta always play this because it's so good. But if practice makes perfect isn't available to him, he's gonna be trying other things, right? Like, and that's kind of like where the meta is. And I think this does a really good job of showcasing that. Questions like these and dozens more inform the way we each thinks, consciously and subconsciously feel and talk about the card. And this is but one simple, straightforward card. Similar types of environmental contexts are carried by every card in the game. In a nutshell, these thoughts, feelings, and conversations are the way we experience the game. Are these considerations more important of a competitive, human versus human game than they are in a cooperative, humans versus the encounter deck game? That's debatable, and the answer will likely vary depending on whom you ask. For our purposes, the fact that such considerations exist as part of the cooperative LCG experience is enough to establish that having a clearly defined and well-cultivated environment is an important feature for our LCGs to maintain. I would say yes, that it is. It's important in a cooperative game and a competitive game. A healthy environment, a healthy meta is crucial for people playing the game. So I think that, like, so this is written by Nate French, who is the head of LCGs and one of the original designers of Arkham, I'm pretty damn sure. So like this is a very it's a very good perspective from like a game design standpoint, while also still having that financial perspective as well. Again, I'm here to like respect the people who are bummed by this, but also I'm very neutral on this whole announcement because, again, it's a very expected thing, I think, now in retrospect. How do these changes affect FFG's approach to design? As our cooperative LCGs are moving into this new era for the reasons outlined above, there are a number of ancillary benefits that present themselves to our design teams. We're excited by the promise of the following opportunities and look forward to exploring them through our design efforts. The first and most significant of these opportunities is the ability to increase our focus on the current environment. Testing a new set of cards across a card pool with almost 100 other products to establish the desired power level or difficulty consumes a lot of bandwidth. Being able to sharpen the lens and really zoom in and emphasize the current environment throughout the development process will be invaluable for our designers as well as our playtesters. This doesn't mean we're going to completely abandon the legacy environment. What it does mean that we'll be focusing more heavily on optimizing the current environment, and if a decision emerges where legacy is pulling in one direction and current is pulling in the other, we will always prioritize the direction that makes current experience better. It's also likely that for players who enjoy the format, part of the appeal of the legacy format will be to see and experience a more unbound version of the game. So it's okay if there are a few more outrageous combos, and I can't believe that just happened moments within legacy play. So a lot of times when this shift happens, they say they are going to still focus on legacy. And generally, yes, they still do, but it is noticeably less. So I think that is one of those things that it remains to be seen, but I think it's pretty fair to say that once a card enters Legacy, it's much less likely to have an impact in terms of like changing, like have an impact on like changes being made because of that. In the context of Arkham Horror, tabooing is easy, right? Tabooing is easy. Like they can like come up with something that they can just put in the next FAQ. And then also because it's a cooperative game, it's not as urgent if something is overpowered because a lot of players will just like, I'm going to frick off and play something else. I'll play a different card in my deck because it's more fun. I've already played Cyclopean Hammer. I don't need to experience Cyclopean Hammer again. That kind of like self-limitation on card balance. So while I agree that yes, they might still do things in Legacy, in the past when I've seen people make this statement, there is less of it. It's like there's less actuality to the statement. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing in a cooperative environment compared to a competitive environment, because cooperative environments generally are there's self-policing for that kind of stuff. Do I still think, again, that taboos will happen to stuff if it's too bad? Yes. Yes, I do. The second opportunity can be encapsulated by the word impact. When a new card is released, the size of the environment into which it is being released is going to play a significant role in how impactful that card is on the environment. Larger environments are more likely to grow stagnant, in which the same cards and strategies continue to rise atop is the best way to play. Smaller environments are more likely to shift. This is very true. As an example, when Travis, Bryn, and I were playing, each pack we got was exciting. So it's the same kind of thing, right? Like when a new pack enters a smaller environment, it's going to make a bigger impact. So when we talk about lockpicks being super impactful, it's because of that. Like Rogue didn't have a lot to work with, but that card changed the game quite a bit. This means that over time, as card pools grow, the promise of each new card that releases lessened. Power creep aside, new cards become less and less impactful over time. Once a concept like a product retirement is introduced, the current environment will evolve in a much more dynamic way, as newer cards have less competition, as older staples leave, and as new answers are discovered. This all combines to allow our design team to be far more deliberate in how they craft the experience of each play environment, allowing the game to evolve at a more exciting rate, thereby feeling refreshed and more novel with each new release. So this one I'm also very curious to see how this plays out, because I do think that this is true when you go in the context of only playing in current and discussing current. So my hope is that as they design new cards, it's not necessarily something where it's like, we're always going to see a Faustian bargain, right? But like, or like a big money event in Rogue. But the idea is that when a card cycles out of current, we get another big money in thing. So I don't want like each box to have the same effects over and over and over again. And I don't think there will be. I think that Arkham's design pool is incredibly deep still. I think like even after all these years, while I can definitely agree with the sentiment that like maybe like boundaries need to be pushed more in design. But I still think that like there's a lot that can be done in Arkham, and I think just doing like the same thing over and over again is my biggest concern with all this. But I think if there's the set rotation, so like they're like Hemlock Vale's running out, we need like a replacement for Bank Job, that kind of thing, right? So that's kind of like what is my thing for that. It's just I hope that when they're looking at the impactful cards that are like glue, it's like not something that we see all the time, or there's more like crazy exploration within it. The thing I'm most curious about as well is how this is going to affect like archetypes and that kind of thing. Because Arkham Horror at this point is now a combo-oriented game. And I'm curious to see how Current changes that to kind of the more scrappy Arkham that notably Travis, Britt, and I first fell in love with. I feel like we might be going back to that, but that's just some random conjecture, I guess. The third option these changes present is increased level of design freedom. Sometimes there are cards or decks that restrict or even entirely close off design space in a card pool. Maybe it's due to an interaction, maybe it's due to a card's raw efficiency, or maybe it's due to critical mass of similar cards within the pool. Whatever the case may be, the introduction of prioritization of the current environment combined with the idea that most products will eventually retire to legacy frees our designers to explore ideas in some of these areas that have previously been limited or closed off. This initial freedom enables more precise design for each character, deck, or scenario, making the overall game better in the process. I mean, this is true. This is true. If the idea is they have a sick-ass skill that's like a practice skill that they want to do, but every time they're like, okay, we have to make it weaker because of practice makes perfect. When practice makes perfect is eventually gone, then who cares, right? If the legacy players want to have broken times with it, they can have broken times with it. We don't need to police that card from there. Like, it can be broken, and if people want to have fun with it and have it be broken, let it be broken, right? So I think that is 100% true. Right now, these details are a glimpse behind the scenes impacting how we approach the design of future sets. More information regarding the exact makeup of each of the game's first current environment, along with some tips from that game's design team regarding how to get the most of each environment, will be forthcoming as those details are developed. A likely ETA for the launch of the current environment as an official format is early 2026. Until then, you continue to enjoy the games as always, playing with a single environment that contains every card. As previously noted, these changes mark a new evolution for LCGs. As we begin to craft new sets for these formats, it's likely that we'll learn more about what we can and cannot do on the design side. LCGs have changed quite a bit over the years, and they'll inevitably continue to evolve in the future. We look forward to exploring this next era with you. So yeah, it's going to be a while till we actually start seeing this. So like they did give us a big lead. I do not know when things are going to start going out of print, but my recommendation is if you have the cash and you want to buy something, buy it. But notably, please do not rush to buy it, because if you don't have it, you're going to miss out. That is called FOMO, and it is not the way to go. It's going to be fine. It's just going to be fine. So don't spend money you don't have because of this. Things will stay. Like, take it from me. I have bought FFGs, LCGs that have been out of stock. Game of Thrones, Legend of the Five Rings, and Warhammer Conquest. I was buying those years after they went out of print, and they were still in stock. So these things are not going to just disappear overnight. And also, don't believe the panic of scalpers coming in to flip them. That's not going to happen. I mean, it's going to happen at least like more than once, but it's not on the scale of panic or worry. I also want to give a quick shout out to Reeve for this some notes from the LCG Fireside Chat. So there's going to be some other things I'm just going to read through, some stuff that is also here that I think is helpful to know. So LCGs are thriving for FFG right now. Don't expect them to go away anytime soon. They will continue to support the current ones and release new ones. So this is something that is very true, and this changes a way to make that more viable and true going into the far future.
The Arkham will forever be changed content was overblown and got taken further than intended by the community. Sounds about right. They just mean Cthulhu's coming to Arkham will change Arkham forever and possibly future stories, not really the future of the product line. Don't worry about booster packs. Don't worry about this. Don't worry about this. Duke said, this is another interesting thing that I'm hoping comes to fruition as well. Duke said that one of the bad things about switching to the new format is that there's less for players to talk about in between releases, especially now that repacks are done. They have plans to address this that Duke can't talk about now, but they do think it needs to be a problem that needs to be addressed. So the idea is that they're going to be able to get more content. So like the idea, if we think about it, like say they remove 8 of their SKUs, they probably want to put like 4 of those back in while the other ones rotate out, right? So like there's going to be more Arkham. It's just a matter of, sorry, I can't say there's going to be more Arkham. The hope is that there is going to be more Arkham in there. And last but not least, we teased a new artwork from an upcoming product that I'm going to share here. Yes, that is a dinosaur. That is a dinosaur. So this is and you can also see like a little serpent man with a sword in the background here. So some of my thoughts on this, again, I'm very neutral. I'm very neutral on this. Like I don't have positive, I don't have negative thoughts, but I do sympathize with the people who are bummed by it. And I'm trying to say maybe like it'll pass, right? Like maybe this is you being done. Maybe this will cause you to be done with the game. But if you already had everything and this caused you to be done with the game, that's honestly a little like, maybe that's you just don't love the game anymore. Because like realistically, if you have everything, nothing is going to change. You can still play with all the cards. This is just like things can't be printed forever. And the more stuff they add, the more likely things are just going to like fall apart and fail money-wise. So this is just like the step to make that not happen. If you do not want to play current or legacy, and your big thing is you are not looking forward to the shift in specifically content or discussion about the game, I can at least do what I can here to assure you that playing board games is going to cover legacy, it's going to cover current, because I still really like playing Arkham. Like, it's not my favorite game. My favorite game is Love Letter. And then probably Castles of Burgundy or maybe Lost Ruins of Arnak. But, like, Arkham Horror is an easy top 5, right? So, like, I wouldn't do this unless I liked it. And I'm going to continue to play the game in all the different ways that they provide us to play with it. So if you want not current stuff and you still want to play legacy or see legacy content, it's going to happen. We're going to do both. We're going to do it all. I mean, actually, honestly, it's probably going to be adding even more videos to my docket in the future. And I think as well, we are very grateful to have a community in Arkham that has such a good digital way to play. And these things will never actually die, because at this point, they're already locked into a very good mod for you to play it. So it's like one of those things that it's not going anywhere. It's just like not, if you want to buy the physical product, it's going to be gone, right? And that does, I get why people think that is a bummer. I totally get it. But really, I do think that it's going to be more available than you think it is. Is what I think it's going to come down to. Mostly, again, due to my own experience of still being able to find packs of those games that I was digging for 4 years ago, right? Yeah, so that's kind of it. I'm sorry that I'm not like either super hype man or super doomer for this, because realistically, I get it. It just like it all just makes sense. But I do think that overall, in like 3 years, we're gonna look back at this and look back at it with like, yeah, that was a good choice, right? Like same with the repackage. That one was immediately like, yeah, that was a good choice. But I think overall, this is a good point that it's a good thing for the game as a whole. I think that's what it's going to be. The current core set is not a good base for a rotation format. The classes are did you read the release article? I'll go back to this thing, which again I think is a lot of people don't really talk about here. There's also going to be evergreen expansions that are always going to stay in print as well. So it's not just core set, and any other evergreen expansions, which I imagine they're going to lead to each team to decide what sells well and what's important for balance, right? And with that said, I do still think the core set cards are very good. And, well, yes, the Rogue... I mean, I think the Mystic cards are very good in the core set, too, because they also have the Rite of Seeking 2, so they have what they need. I do think that core Rogue and core Mystic supported by expansions are better than people are giving credit for. That's all I got to say about that. I think, like, yeah, Rogue is definitely the weaker on the weak side of that. But I mean, like, have you seen Rogue cards lately? Like, they're going to be very helped by any pack that you buy in the current environment. And we also do not know what the evergreen products are. So I am not going to say here and say we have a problem with core set being the source when we do not know what also is going to be staying in print. So, yeah. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this. Feel free to discuss it in the comments below, but if you're gonna act like a baby, I'm sorry, I'm gonna kick you out. So just be chill. Be bummed. I'm okay with you being bummed, but if you're gonna be a jerk, sorry, that's not it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good one. See you soon. Bye.